Poštovanje, pratite EU Podkast za tebe, ja sam Ivan Simonović. Mladi su jedna od kategorija stanovništva koje se najteže zapošljavaju. Kako bi se to promenilo, države članice Europske unije imaju obavezu da putem garantne šeme za mlade osiguraju da mlađi od 25 godina dobiju kvalitetnu ponudu za zaposlenje. O tome razgovaramo sa Metijom Penom iz Delegacije Europske unije u Srbiji. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To begin with, which European value do you value the most, and why should it be important for Serbia?
Well, I think all European values are potentially important, but also very relevant to Serbia. If I had to choose one, the first one, of course, that comes to mind is obviously freedom, because when we talk about freedom, we think about freedom of movement, movement of people, movement of capital, movement of goods. And I think in a future where Serbia is a member of the European family, we want to see open borders and freedom of movement. But for today's discussion, if you allow me, I will pick another one, and I think that would be human dignity. I think we think about human dignity as maybe a value that is important in very extreme situations of maybe violence or extreme poverty. But we maybe forget that dignity is also something that affects us in our everyday life. And in particular, when someone loses their job, it can actually have a bit of a chain effect and trigger a lot of, let's say, social exclusion factors. And I think when we talk about employment, which will keep us busy in today's podcast, I think we're also talking about human dignity.
Yes. We often talk about how the EU will improve Serbia, but how can Serbia also improve the EU?
Well, when I look at Serbia and how it contributes to the European values and the European economy, the first thing, again, that comes to mind is really its people. We know there's a huge amount of migration that is happening from Serbia to EU countries, but also a lot of what we call circular migration, meaning a lot of Serbians live in EU member states, they study in EU member states, they work there, and they also come back to Serbia bringing a lot of new knowledge, new skills, maybe new perspectives on Europe. So I think it's a mutual enrichment process. It's a two-way road, let's say, and from that point of view, I think Serbia has been contributing and is still contributing today to shaping the European model.
Yes.
Circular migration is really, I think, my pet idea here.
Yes, and now a little about the Youth Guarantee Program. What is it all about, and who is it intended for?
Okay, so it's good that you mentioned this, because we came here today following the signature of two important cooperation programs between the European Union and the Serbian governments. And the objective is indeed to set up what we call a youth guarantee in Serbia. So what it is about, maybe some of your audience never even heard what a youth guarantee was. I think it's a scheme that is already in place in 27 EU countries, which will be which is a commitment to young people from 15 to 29 years of age to be able, within 4 months of losing their job or leaving school, to receive an offer of employment, an offer of training, or an offer of apprenticeship. That means you will not be away from the labor market for more than 4 months. The employment service, your local employment service, will be able to support you during that period and bring you back into a situation where you're not basically losing your skills, you're not staying too far away from the labor market, and you can quickly recycle yourself if you need to.
Mm-hmm. And what benefits does it bring compared to the current employment scheme?
Well, there's a number of benefits. The first one, which I just mentioned, is really that you have a guarantee, as the name suggests, that within a relatively short period of time, an offer will come your way. You may or may not accept it, but at least you will have what we like to call a second chance. It's you will not be on your own, and within 4 months, you will hopefully will be able to gain professional experience again. Another element of the youth guarantee is that I would say the spectrum of services that will be on offer for young people is more complex, it's more diverse. We are hoping to offer a little bit more that is currently on the table. Just to give you an example, single women who maybe will have difficulty balancing their professional life and their personal life will be able to access childcare allowances, so they can actually find someone to look after their young children, and then at the same time take a job offer and get back into the labor market. This is particularly important in Serbia, where we know when we look at activity rates or employment rates, where we know that a lot of women are simply no longer on the labor market. And if you allow me to add one point, we will also hopefully through additional resources provided by the EU, provide young people with additional follow-up, because it's one thing to offer a job or offer additional training to a young person, but you want to be there 6 months later, 12 months later to check, has it been successful for you? What is your feedback? Do you need additional training? Do you need something else? If you failed the first time, you might just be on your own all over again. So we want to be sure there is a strong follow-up, so that what we call the success rates at follow-up are as high as possible. We want to see 70, 80% or more of the people that we support being in employment after, let's say, the first 12 months.
Yeah. And how does this work in practice for the Young Guarantee system in member states countries?
So in practice, well, the process itself varies from country to country, but I think we could draft a bit of a standard process. After graduating or after losing your job, a young person will be able to first register online, and then will be able relatively shortly to meet with an employment advisor. Then during this first meeting, there will be a sort of profiling ongoing. The advisor will be able to see whether this person is already fit for the labor market, or whether she needs additional training, skills, maybe work exposure. And on this basis, within 4 months, the person will receive a youth guarantee offer. And then this is when the process starts. It sounds simple, but it's actually something that requires a strong administration on the ground, qualified advisors, and good connections as well with the employers community, the local companies basically that are providing these jobs. So that would be the process. As a young person, you have maybe 3 steps to follow. And with a bit of proactivity, I think success rate, at least if we look at EU countries, is relatively high.
Yes. Just to conclude with, why are we better together?
Why are we better together? Why is EU and Serbia? The easy answer would be because if you're asking a family why we are better together, I think the answer is obvious, because we're all from the same group, and it wouldn't make sense for us to be divided. But I think when we look at Serbia in the EU, we again often think about creating a common market, a single market, which I mentioned earlier is very important. When we talk about employment, I'd like to think as Serbia joining more of a social community, contributing to creating a single social community within the EU, where every citizen are guaranteed the same social rights, irrespective of their country of origin. So that would be my vision for Serbia inside the EU.
Yes, thank you for joining us and for sharing a lot of important information.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
A hvala i vama što ste nas pratili.